What's up, y'all? It's Bradford. Oh, yeah, I got some good news for you. And that is that God has a champion. And God is calling his champions out here to do some battle. Yes. I want to tell y'all first about um, what I heard this morning, and that was that Sherri Shepard had returned to the View, and Sherri, she kind of mentioned passively about when she made the mistake of saying that the Earth was flat and not round, and people kind of called her out about that. But she, from that experience, she she learned something, and that is that no matter what you say, as soon as you open your mouth, some people are not going to like it. Now, you can be one thing my dad used to tell me. My dad's a very wise man. I appreciate all the lessons that he has taught me, and that is a fool can tell you the bridge is out. And I interpret that to mean that don't ever get so high and mighty that can't nobody tell you nothing, right? So somebody that you might think to be a fool may have the very information that you need to know. That fool may tell you that that bridge on down the road is out, and you may need to stop and pull over. So you can never get so high and mighty that you can't listen to anybody else. But Cher was talking about what her boss told her, because she wanted to apologize and kind of make amends for different things that she said. He just let her know that no matter what you say, as soon as you open your mouth, it's people waiting for you to say something just so they can tell you that you're wrong, right? So you can't worry about that. You need to say what you're going to say anyway, because God is calling his chosen champions to get out here and do his work, right? And that's the good news that I got for you today. Second thing I want to tell you about is so for me, I've been reading 1 Corinthians 12, where he speaks about the spiritual gifts. Now, I've always had these different spiritual gifts, and as I was reading about it again today, the spiritual gifts are for the common good, right? So I know I've talked about dreams and visions and things I've had, and people told me, oh, you need to shut that down and make you sound schizophrenic, things like that. But that's that thing of people telling you that and not having that understanding. You can't let it shut you down, and you can't let it stop you. But I got confirmation on my spiritual gifts and visions, because the other day, and this was maybe 2 days ago, I had some dreams that seemed to speak to me, and I'll share a bit later what was going on in that dream. But when I woke up, I had a text message from a friend of mine from college. And I can remember, so this friend, he messages me, and he's asking, his birthday is coming up. He's like, what are you going to get me for my birthday? I said, oh, well, you know what? I'll prophesy for you. And he said, oh, I have that gift already also. Right? And in actuality, I can remember back when we were in college, he actually told me, yeah, he had the gift of prophecy. So it's not something that he was just telling me today. I can remember a long time ago him telling me about this gift of prophecy. And so we started to have a conversation. I was telling him what some of the things that I had seen kind of recently. And one of those things that I experienced was, and this was about a month ago, woke up from a dream that I had, right? Seemed very, prophetic. That I was seeing some things that were coming to pass. In particular, what I saw was that I was in a store and the shelves were empty. Now, this is like I said, a couple months ago, and I know at the maybe March 2020, April 2020, May 2020, we probably saw that the shelves were empty there. And but this is something that I'm seeing again, and the difference is that not only were the shelves empty, but the electricity was out. And so as I had that dream, I didn't really share with anyone. And then later that day, I'm with someone, and we pull up to a gas station to get some gas, and I asked if you want anything from the store. Let me run in and grab something for you. I said, let me get a juice. So I go into the store. I said, okay, I'll get both of us a juice. And I go into the back of the store where the drinks are, and open it up. And as I reach up to get the juice, I know something caught my eye, and I noticed it was maybe something like some green pineapple juice or something like that. But it was at that moment that I noticed that green pineapple juice that it occurred to me, I had just seen this moment in the dream, seen this space in the dream, right? But right now, when I'm seeing it in 3D, all of these, the shelf is stopped. It's cool. The electricity is on. But that juice container that I saw in my dream, it was just like one on the shelf, and all the rest of the shelves were empty. And that drink fridge there was no electricity in it, and there was nothing on that shelf. And it occurred to me that I was possibly seeing that 3D space, but in the 5D at a different time, right? That it would be that is something to come. And so I'm telling my friend about this dream that I had, a couple weeks ago, and he confirms to me that he has seen the same thing, and he could show me some text messages where he has shared this with other people kind of contemporaneously. So we are both seeing this same thing. Then later I was actually listening to some other YouTube prophets, pastors, whatever you want to call them, whatever title they want to give themselves, but someone who also has these spiritual gifts, and was speaking to the fact that they were seeing these shelves empty too, and making the suggestion that you need to start stocking up on things. Now perhaps all of the things that have been happening in the past couple of years are wrapping up or coming to an end, right? But that does not mean that it is over, right? There are more things to come, and that's just one. That's one of the things you should be preparing for, right? And what speaks to me is, and this has been a part of my experience, and something that I know, is that you don't really have to hoard too much, because if you're living right, God will provide for you every day. But if you recognize what is happening right now, it is worthwhile to not just to be hoarding for yourself, but for your family, to make sure that you have things stored up. So some of the things that we want to invest in, the things that are metrics to make us feel happy, are not going to be the things that are going to feed you in the days to come, right? It's not going to be some of the things that we look at, our possessions that we look at, that kind of feed our ego. It's going to be the nourishment that you need, right? So that's the first thing. And like I said, the shelves empty and the electricity is out. The next thing that I saw was someone was showing me a car, and this car was moving by a different type of propulsion. And it wasn't like some advanced propulsion. This car was moving by a type of, it felt very mechanical. So, if you have some engineering skills and things like that, it might be worthwhile to refresh yourself on those type of things. But this type of way that this car was moving, it seemed to kind of move in clicks, like it was some type of a gear system, right? So perhaps that means that there's going to be limited resources like gasoline. So you wishing you could put some gasoline in your car to move, but that's not going to be working. It's going to be an old car that you can do some stuff to get it to work. That might be the very thing that's actually getting you from place to place. But I did see that. Now, I don't know that that's something that's going to necessarily come to pass, and maybe that's something in a dream, that I saw, right, or something. But I did see that thing, and they seem to kind of mesh well together. Now, so that was some confirmation. I'm feeling like, as as I have read about the spiritual gifts, it says that, to one will be given this spiritual gift, to another be given this other spiritual gift, right? So it makes sense to me that, this person that I know who also feel like he's had these prophetic gifts, right, would see similar things. This other thing that I saw, this third thing, is, and like I said, I was watching someone who kind of spoke about this too, but she spoke about it in a much more kind of symbolic way. And but what I saw was, I saw myself in perhaps like an island resort. And it looked like all of the people who were working in the service part of this island resort were black, but I seem to have been there as a guest. And I was engaged with one of the service people, right? And there were some particular things that happened in the dream that I would interpret as, for myself, kind of holding back, not speaking up, right? And perhaps it's by not speaking up about what I have felt is things that are happening where God is perhaps not pleased with some of the behaviors that we have. And I know if I think about like these island resorts where people go out to the Caribbean, right? They go there because they have some money. They want to get away from the United States and go down, and they'll go to these places and stay in these nice hotels where, the local community, which is often poor, works in service to them, right? But what I saw next was, and I heard the word, I didn't hear hurricane, right? And hurricane is something that actually resonates with me, and I'll kind of speak to my experiences with hurricanes as well. But in this particular one, I heard cyclone, and I think cyclone is terminology that they use for storms in perhaps like on the eastern hemisphere. That will be the terminology that they use. Perhaps it's something that's happening there. But I heard, I saw these people rushing back into the resort. Now maybe it was like, a cruise going off to somewhere. I know I've been recently looking into the island of Patmos, where John received some of the visions and the revelations, right? And if you were going to travel out there, you would need to take a ferry to get there. Or perhaps you can get on a cruise and go to that space. But in this particular, vision that I had, it was, it seemed to be, I could see the people rushing in from the beach, right, and saying like cyclone, like something was coming, right? So that's the other vision that I had. Now, the third thing that I've seen, and this is from the, it's about that fifth trumpet blast, and if you read in Revelations 9, verse 3, you'll see that it's mentioned this smoke that opens up, and these locusts that come, and they're described as having like, the face of a man, hair of a woman, teeth of a lion, right? And this is all kind of symbolic, but it seems that we are, and this is perhaps happening in the in the spiritual plane, because that battle is happening. That's why God is calling his champions to do battle with some of this evil that's out here, because the evil is happening in this 3D realm, what you see every day. If you're just looking with your regular eyes and looking at your 3D, that's all you're going to see. But it is a lot that is happening around you right now. When in March 2020, at the beginning of everything that's going down, right, I had one of the most profound visions that I've ever had. And I've had like some pretty profound visions and experiences, right? And I saw, the calling of all of these souls. I saw them just floating up, right? And now, I feel very recently, I saw what perhaps are described as these locusts. So, I don't know a whole lot of the history of when, the revelation that John wrote about in, way back when, if that started, a millennium ago and we're still in it, or if it started recently. But I know that if you look around, it does not take a prophet to show you that there are a lot of souls being called right now, and that plague is just, the first part of it, you know. And so hopefully you have done the things that you need to do, which is I speak to, you can. I'm not going to get involved in some of the more mainstream debates that go on, because I could that's a whole nother video I can go into, but that would be like beating a dead horse. But what I will say is that, the Bible does say it is not what goes into the body, it's what comes out of the body that defiles it. So you need to think about what's in your heart and what you're letting come out of your body, right? And once you get over that one battle, it's another battle that's waiting right there for you. So if you look if your eyes are open and your ears are ready to listen, you will see that there's a lot of things that are happening around you that kind of speak to the times that we're in. There are fireballs falling over, different states. I know I've seen a story where like 5 fell over North Carolina. People seen large fireballs coming over Wyoming, and I'm using the term fireballs. They might be meteorites, and if you recall, the NASA, they were tracking in, I think this was late 2012, they were tracking some of those larger asteroids that they know would come very close to the Earth's atmosphere and have the potential for impact, right? So they're tracking this one in like late December 2019, and it came very close and it did not hit, but there was one that they were not tracking because it was coming from the direction of the sun and it could not be seen, and that's the one that hit over Russia and released a huge sound wave that knocked out windows, and luckily it wasn't like, there wasn't anything that was super that had a lot of fatalities around it. But if you look at the fires and the hurricanes and the earthquakes and the floods and all of those things that are kind of happening around the world, and particular if you look at the migrations of people who are, desperate and how they are treated, it's a very sad thing, right? And if you think about what the Bible tells you and how you should treat your neighbor, how we are treating our neighbors is not very good. And I think that speaks to that vision that I had about people traveling to the Caribbean, but when these desperate people from Haiti and from other Caribbean islands are trying to come to the States, they'll turn that boat around and push it back. They're out there on horses with whips and things like that. So I don't think God is pleased with that type of behavior, right? And so it just goes to show people want their all of their material possessions and a very comfortable kind of religious experience, but aren't willing to actually live out what is spoken in the Bible about how their behaviors should be, and about changing their minds and then changing their hearts and trying to do different. And like I said, Sherri Shepard, she said some people aren't gonna like what you have to say, but God told me I did not need your permission. All right, get into it. Let's see if it's something else that I wanted to say. The only thing else I'm gonna say is praise God. I hope those who are listening to this message receive it. You can go on and hit that like button if you're watching me on YouTube. Hit that share. Go on and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I'm going to try and do as many of these as I can. Stay prayed up, because it is a battle going on out here. And what you said, God needs some champions out here that are going to do his work, right? Like I said, there's different spiritual gifts. I'm just talking about one right now, about the gift of the gift of prophecy. So I've seen it. I share that with, like I said, I could talk with my friend who also have this gift of prophecy. But there are other spiritual gifts out here too. So you need to be praying and fasting, trying to improve your spiritual gifts, because there's probably something in you that God is calling you as a champion to do as well. You may have the gift of interpretation of tongues. I know I've grown up, I've heard people speak tongues all the time. It's just like you watch a My Dear movie. They all seem the same, and I haven't heard anybody interpret that for me. But and the gift of speaking in tongues is not necessarily one that kind of resonates with me. My integrity is not going to allow me to pretend like I can speak in the tongue. That's just not something that I'm going to do. But I will say that I feel like my dad has had the spiritual gift of wisdom, and some of the wisdom that he has shared with me. So for one, I'll give you an example. When I was graduating from college and thinking about where I would live after I would graduated from college in Mississippi, I was looking at New Orleans, and my dad said, you don't want to stay in New Orleans. It's built in a bowl. If the levee ever break, that would not be a good thing. It would flood. And I remember thinking, oh, who ever heard of this? The year 2000? Who ever heard of something like that happen? But sure enough, maybe a month after I had been in New Orleans, helping a friend move from Houston, we drove from Houston to DC, but we made a stop in New Orleans probably in that month. That maybe it was like August or September of what year was Katrina? 2006, I want to say. But yeah, and then now with my gift of prophecy, I was down in New Orleans recently, and the first thing when I arrived, I told my sister, oh, it's a storm coming. I could feel it. I could sense it. And perhaps I needed to be there to help her to get through that storm that was coming. But yeah, that Hurricane Ida definitely came through, and I prayed about it and slept right through it. And though a tree landed on the house next door, and that water came right up to the back of the doorstep, we made it through that. The other thing, so there's other gifts. So another one, like I said, my dad has this gift of knowledge. I'll speak about this and wisdom. Is that he has said to me, my dad had smoked cigarettes way back in the day, probably before I was born. And the way that he always told me, the way that he quit smoking cigarettes, he was listening to a televangelist who said, put those cigarettes down and step on them. And he said he never smoked again. Now, I had been smoking for 15 years. I had tried Wellbutrin. I tried Chantix. I tried the patch. I tried nicotine gum, but it was not until I was shouting my praises and praying for my life, and it just seemed like it didn't take anything. The cigarettes just went away. I don't even want to think about smoking a cigarette, right? And that's a very powerful thing. And my dad he told me several times that he would always say, he see me getting ready to go smoke a cigarette, oh, you need to read this book, A Monkey on My Back. And though I never read the book, perhaps all of that, his good intentions and trying to get me to quit smoking, those prayers over my life actually helped, right? You want to get some people that are praying some good things, some people around you that pray some good things over your life like that, and listen to people that have some wisdom. Now, I could have listened to my dad a long time ago and listened to his wisdom about how he quit. But it took me, my steps have been ordered. So maybe God was wanting me to go through that so I could have a much more powerful testimony. But, my steps have been ordered. And I know that, it was God until I came to, but by the grace of God, that I was able to drop these cigarettes, right? See if there's something else that I want to cover. But I think that's going to be it. Again, give me a like, share, and subscribe. Really appreciate it. All right, now.